that we talk a lot about where is the money going. I was surprised that you didn't quote the 26 billion rand spent on enterprise and supply development, because I always get stuck on that. If we're spending all that money, where is the impact going? I would like to start by talking about strategy, because as an ESD implementation partner or an entrepreneur support organization that falls under the 27% of the outsourced services that corporates choose to use us for, we believe that the reason why we're not achieving the level of impact that we should be seeing really starts with whether or not there is a strategy in place and whether or not it's a well thought through strategy. So if we don't start well at that point, I really believe that the consequences that we're seeing is the absence of that. 62% did throw me though, because if 62% of entities have strategies, then I think our expectation would be that 62% of them would be achieving impact. And so I'm wondering what that says about the type of strategies that are in place by these corporates. I was very pleased to hear that you were emphasizing the long-term nature of it. The question that we always ask is, it's curious that at a business level, we seem to understand the importance and the role of a well-thought-through strategy. And we define this with a 3 to 5 year time horizon. So as a business, this is our vision, and everybody in this organization needs to rally behind this vision. And of course, once a year, we will check in on whether we're making progress on that and continue to course correct. But my impression is that perhaps this is not cascading in the manner that it should when it comes to enterprise and supply development. It's a hypothesis, but of course the stats that we see and the experience that we have does suggest that. So why is it that this practice that's happening at a business level doesn't seem to be translating when it comes to enterprise and supply development? And what impact is that having? I shouldn't have used the word impact, because I'm going to say on the lack of impact that we're seeing. So our view then is we've got to start there. We've got to start at the basics. And as enterprise and supply development practitioners, I think that has to be our departure point. What I think happens though is because companies are verified on an annual basis, what we see on the ground as we're implementing is that we are implementing ESD plans that tend to have a 12-month horizon and not ESD strategies that should take a longer term view. So what does that mean, and why is that an important point to make? It forces us to continuously take a short-term view on the interventions that we're doing. And what does that do? It's erosive on the long-term impact that we're trying to achieve. So we've been here since 2007 when the codes were first gazetted. And to borrow from some of the presentation points that were made, there were malpractices. There was fronting, there was opportunistic exploitation of the gaps in the codes, and the DTI regrouped in 2012 and refined those and closed some of those gaps. But it's the nature of human beings that we'll always find a way to evade if our intentions are not noble. But despite those efforts, we stand here since 2007, and we talk about 26 billion that has been spent, and there's a contradiction between the spend and the impact. So again, I want to go back to my point. I think as practitioners, we've got to say, let us mimic the business strategy prioritization and cascade that down to ESD. That's the first thing. But I think secondly, it's equally important to say, what is the business benefit of implementing enterprise and supply development? It's a really critical point for us to consider, because if we look at enterprise and supply development through the lens of compliance, we effectively struggle to justify our existence. When money is tight at corporate, where's the first place you're going to cut? It's not an income generating business unit, so why should I spend this money? What is the consequence of me actually lowering my BEE scorecard? If we're having the conversation in that manner, we've continued to miss the point. I can appreciate why in the early days of BEE, that would have been the departure point. It was a new piece of, and it's not a new piece of legislation, but we view it as that because we view it through the compliance lens, right? And I can appreciate why in the early days, that's the lever that we needed to pull. If your BEE level is high, you'll be rewarded for it. If your BEE level is low, you'll be punished for it. But if we're spending 26 billion rand on enterprise and supply development, you cannot continue to justify that from a compliance perspective. It has to be deeply embedded in the tangible benefits from a business perspective. So start with what is our business strategy And how does our enterprise and supplier development strategy better enable the achievement of that business strategy? We talk a lot about the benefits of supplier diversity. I don't even want to take it that far, but the point is, if you're going to spend that kind of money and you're not seeing the business benefit, you're going to struggle to justify that. And the stats today, I think, also make that point. Budgets are committed and the money is not spent because I think our strategies are failing to make a compelling case for that money to continuously be released. But that's not all there is to it. We talk about impact, and this is the point I think for today that I wanted to raise. And it's a topic that we feel very strongly about. So let's say, for example, we have this right strategy in place. And ideally that strategy cascades to a program that's going to enable the achievement of that strategy. But we're not keeping ourselves honest by talking about the impact that we're having. So we spend this money and we've developed the strategy, but are we achieving the desired results? And where we're not achieving the desired results, what are we doing about that? We talk a lot about the money that's been spent, but I don't think we take enough time to reflect internally and say, are we achieving the right desired results? And if we're not, what are we going to do about it? So at Zivoli, we've challenged ourselves to, if you will, lead by example, because we've been in this space since 2014, and as typical entrepreneurs support organizations, whenever corporates ask us why us, we go, oh no, because we're really great at what we do. But we found that we ourselves needed to challenge ourselves around what is the tangible impact that we have had and how do we tell those stories? And then how do we take that practice and help our corporate clients adopt it? So we've taken the view that when we deal with our corporate clients, we're very interested in, do you have a strategy in place? If not, let's articulate your strategic goals and let's align those with your business strategy. So that's the what. What is it that we're trying to do? And then let's cascade that as a first step to your theory of change. So how is it that we're going to do this? How are we going to implement these programs? How are we going to measure success in those programs? And what are we going to do when we feel that we're not achieving that desired result? Our view has been that it would be a natural progression for corporates, particularly in the context of alignment of BEE. Did I just get loud? Alignment of BEE and ESG. I feel like I just got loud. Alignment of BEE, specifically in the context of this conversation, ESG. Corporates talk about how they demonstrate their alignment to, for example, the Sustainable Development Goals, and lately, ESG. So we find that in order for us to speak about success when it comes to those, we really have to have defined a very solid and well-considered theory of change. How is it that we're going to be deliberate about SME capacity building, and where does it reside in SDG, and where does it reside in the context of ESG? We feel that a lot of what's happening is retrospect. Suddenly I have to give a report on SDG or ESG, and I'm scrambling for a storyline in my SME capacity efforts. We really feel that we need to anchor ourselves in the right strategy, both as entrepreneur support organizations, but also as the corporates that we support. And we need to make sure that that's fully aligned with the business strategy. And then we can proactively then contribute to these broader conversations that we're having around SDG and ESG. In addition to what we're talking about the suppressed stats, there is definitely a missed opportunity that I think we need to wake up to, given that we've been here since 2007, on the deliberateness with which we lead in the ESG space to show and justify our existence and how this lives in the broader business strategy. I'm really keen for us to start to talk about impact in a tangible manner, because it is there, the conversations around impact are there, but I don't think we're doing enough with the insights. If I'm having little impact, how do I improve it? What is the impact that I'm trying to have? How am I going to measure whether or not I'm achieving that and course correct without reinventing this wheel every 12 months? We have prepared an impact report, which I'll gladly share, but I think for us, we would really like to have this conversation with the industry at large, so that we really start to actively demonstrate we may not be having impact of the full 26 billion, but we're definitely making the dent with some of that. And what is it that we need to improve on to make sure that we edge ourselves closer to having significant impact for the full amount, and then take the other 40% of the corporates that are not actually spending their money, because they'll start to see that collectively we're actually making significant movement and we're chipping away at the very transformation that we would like to see at a South Africa Inc. level. I made a conscious choice not to say Dineo in corporate. I thought we're picking on Dineo. So at a South Africa Inc. level, if we all start to be very deliberate about what is my what strategy and what is my how, and how am I going to course correct to make sure that I'm having the impact that we desire, then the other corporates that are hesitant or reluctant or can't justify their budgets will start to see that we're actually shifting this needle and will be more driven to contribute to this conversation. I welcome us continuing this one-on-one, and I invite you to please grab a copy of our impact report. But let's change the narrative and let's empower ourselves to better be able to make the shift that we all want to see. Thank you.